When people talk about changing their lives, they imagine some grand, dramatic shift. They believe they'll wake up one morning, feel a burst of motivation, and suddenly transform into the person they always wanted to be. That's a fantasy. Real transformation doesn't come from a lightning strike of motivation. It comes from the smallest decisions you make when nobody's watching. It's the micro habits, the tiny actions repeated day after day, that carve your destiny. A man is not defined by what he does once in a while. He's defined by what he does consistently. You brush your teeth every day without thinking about it, and because of that, your teeth are healthy. Imagine if you treated discipline, fitness, learning, and wealth the same way. Imagine if success became as normal to you as brushing your teeth. This is the truth nobody wants to accept. The little things are everything. A single push up means nothing. Reading 2 pages of a book means nothing. Waking up 10 minutes earlier than usual seems irrelevant. But stack that up over months, over years, and you're a completely different man. People will look at you and say, how did he change? How did he build that body, that mind, that life? And the answer is simple: by stacking the smallest victories until they became impossible to ignore. You think greatness is built in massive, cinematic moments. It's not. It's built when you choose to do the hard thing on a Tuesday morning when nobody cares. Most men wait for the right time, the perfect conditions, or the wave of motivation that never comes. They sit around hoping life will hand them success. But life doesn't reward hopes, it rewards habits. If every day you do something tiny, something intentional, something disciplined, your future will be unstoppable. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits. That means if your habits are weak, you will always remain weak, no matter how big your dreams are. But if your habits are strong, you don't need motivation because your system is working even when your emotions aren't. Think about it. A man who wakes up early every day without hitting snooze has already trained himself to control his mind. A man who trains his body daily, even for 20 minutes, has proven that discipline is stronger than excuses. A man who reads and learns daily is upgrading his operating system while everyone else is scrolling their phones. These tiny things separate men into 2 categories: those who slowly rise and those who slowly rot, because habits compound whether they're good or bad. If you make small, weak decisions every day, over time they destroy you. If you make small, strong decisions every day, over time they make you unstoppable. The dangerous thing about habits is that they don't ask for permission. They install themselves into your life. If you wake up and the first thing you do is check your phone, congratulations, you've built a habit of distraction. If every time you're stressed you run to junk food, congratulations, you've trained yourself to escape instead of endure. And if every night you waste hours on meaningless entertainment, congratulations, you've built a habit of mediocrity. Most people don't even realize their entire lives are just habits in disguise. But here's the secret: you can replace them. One small habit at a time. You can rewire who you are. Nobody became a champion overnight. Nobody built a billion-dollar empire in a single move. Nobody went from broke to disciplined in a week. But every man who achieved greatness did it by nailing the small things until they became his identity. And when you change your identity, your results will always follow. That's why micro habits are powerful. They don't just change your schedule, they change who you are at the core. And when you become the man who automatically does the right things, success stops being a goal and starts being a consequence. So stop waiting for that one big breakthrough. Stop waiting for luck, for miracles, for someone to rescue you. Start paying attention to the micro habits you're building today. Ask yourself, what am I training myself to become? Because every action, no matter how small, is a vote for the man you will be tomorrow. And the man you'll be in 10 years is nothing more than the sum of your daily habits stacked together, whether you chose them with intention or let them form out of laziness. Motivation is one of the biggest lies men tell themselves. You wait to feel motivated before you take action, and that is why you fail. Motivation is nothing more than an emotion. And emotions are weak, temporary, and unreliable. You can feel motivated at night when you watch a video or read a quote, but when the alarm clock rings in the morning, that motivation is gone. Discipline is the opposite. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline doesn't care if you're tired, bored, angry, or uninspired. Discipline is the contract you sign with yourself to show up no matter what. That is why discipline will always beat motivation. The man who relies on motivation will live in cycles of inconsistency, starting strong and then collapsing. But the man who builds discipline will continue to rise because his actions are not controlled by fleeting emotions, they are controlled by principles. When you look at successful men, when you study champions, leaders, entrepreneurs, soldiers, you'll see a common pattern. They don't ask themselves how they feel before they take action. They don't say, "Am I motivated today?" They simply follow their code. Discipline is the internal law you obey even when nobody is watching. And once you lock that law into your life, you don't need to waste energy negotiating with yourself every day. Most men lose because every morning they fight the same battle in their minds. Should I train? Should I wake up early? Should I work on my goals? Discipline eliminates that negotiation. The decision has already been made. You execute. That's how you free your mind from weakness. Motivation is like a spark. It can light a fire for a moment, but discipline is the fuel that keeps the fire burning through the night. Without discipline, your goals will always remain dreams. Think of a man who only trains when he feels like it. He'll never build the body he wants. Think of a man who only works when he feels inspired. He'll never build wealth. Think of a man who only controls his emotions when it's convenient. He'll never earn respect. Now compare that to a man who trains daily regardless of mood, who works daily regardless of inspiration, who controls himself regardless of anger or fatigue. That man becomes unshakable because his life is built on action, not feelings. The truth is, your body and mind are trained by what you do consistently, not by what you do when it's easy. Discipline is the architect of your future. It builds structure where motivation collapses. When you say no to the snooze button, you're training discipline. When you eat clean instead of reaching for comfort food, you're training discipline. When you open the book instead of the phone, when you grind at work instead of making excuses, when you control your tongue instead of lashing out, you're training discipline. Every time you do this, you harden your mind, and over time you become the kind of man who doesn't need motivation because his very identity is built on control. You want to know why most men never reach their potential? It's not because they're not motivated. Everyone feels motivated sometimes. It's because they never develop the iron discipline to act when motivation disappears. They live as slaves to their moods. They feel good, they move. They feel bad, they quit. Life will never reward that kind of man. The world belongs to the one who shows up regardless of emotion. The world belongs to the one who trains himself to obey discipline like a soldier obeys orders. And the beauty of this is that discipline itself becomes freedom. Because when you have discipline, you are no longer at the mercy of weakness, laziness, or distraction. You own yourself. Imagine waking up every day and knowing that no matter how you feel, you will execute. Imagine knowing that your habits and systems will carry you even when your mind is screaming to stop. Imagine living without the constant ups and downs of chasing motivation. That's real power. That's how men separate themselves. Discipline is what builds momentum, and momentum is what builds empires. Motivation is noise, but discipline is the signal. If you build a life on motivation, you'll collapse when it fades. But if you build a life on discipline, you'll keep moving forward long after everyone else has quit. Look at any man who dominates his life, who commands respect when he enters a room, who people instinctively take seriously. You'll notice one thing immediately: he has control over his body. You cannot separate physical discipline from life discipline. If you can't control what you eat, if you can't control when you move, if you can't control your strength and appearance, then don't fool yourself into believing you're in control of your destiny. The body is the first battlefield. It's where weakness hides and where strength begins. And if you don't win there, you'll lose everywhere else. The truth is brutal but simple. A man who can't even control what goes into his mouth can't be trusted to control money, women, business, or power. Because if your impulses run your body, they'll run your life. When you look in the mirror and see laziness staring back at you, deep down you know it's not just about fat or muscle, it's about what that reflection represents. Discipline or decay, respect or shame, strength or weakness. That's why training your body is not just about aesthetics. It's about identity. It's about proving to yourself every single day that you are in command, not your cravings, not your excuses, not your fatigue. Every man wants confidence, but confidence doesn't come from affirmations or fake bravado. Real confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself, from building a body that reflects sacrifice and effort. When you know you've trained day after day, when you've pushed through the pain, when you've sculpted yourself into a weapon, you don't need to fake confidence. It radiates naturally. People can feel it. They see the way you stand, the way you move, the way you occupy space. They know you are not like the average man, because the average man has surrendered his body to laziness. And when you refuse to surrender, you automatically rise above them. Fitness is the foundation of all other disciplines. If you master your body, you build the blueprint for mastering everything else. Waking up early to train teaches you how to start the day with structure. Saying no to junk food teaches you how to resist temptation. Pushing through a brutal workout teaches you how to endure discomfort without complaint. These lessons bleed into business, into relationships, into every decision you make. That's why men who dominate physically often dominate in every other arena, because the same mental toughness that builds a strong body builds a strong life. Weak men will try to downplay this. They'll say, it's not about looks, it's about what's inside. But let's be real. Your body is the billboard of your habits. It broadcasts to the world whether you are disciplined or not. If you're sloppy, overweight, frail, or exhausted, that's the message you're sending. I don't respect myself enough to maintain the vessel I live in. And if you don't respect yourself, why should anyone else respect you? The world judges you the second you walk in. Your body speaks before you open your mouth. And if your body screams weakness, then everything you say afterward is already compromised. Understand this. Your body is not just flesh and bone, it's a weapon. And like any weapon, it needs to be sharpened, conditioned, and respected. A dull blade can't win battles, and a weak body can't win in life. That's why every man must train, not for vanity, but for survival, for power, for control. Because the man who can run further, fight harder, and endure more pain will always outlast the one who quits when it hurts. Pain becomes your ally when you train. Discomfort becomes your teacher. And through the body, you learn one of the most valuable truths. Comfort is the enemy, struggle is the path. Every drop of sweat, every rep, every disciplined choice adds to your arsenal. And the moment you begin to master your body, you realize something deeper. You're no longer just building muscles. You're building character. You're building the kind of man who can be trusted with responsibility, the kind of man who can handle chaos, the kind of man who doesn't break when life applies pressure. Because if you can push through physical exhaustion, you can push through financial stress. If you can endure pain under the barbell, you can endure pain when business, family, or life itself tests you. So ask yourself right now, are you in control of your body, or is your body in control of you? Are you the master of your habits or the slave of your cravings? The answer to that question will decide how far you rise in life. Because if you haven't won the battle over your own body, you will never win the larger battles the world throws at you. But the moment you do, the moment you take control of your physical self, you begin to realize something powerful. Control of the body is control of the mind, and control of the mind is control of your entire existence. The battlefield is not only the body, it's the mind. Your mind is the command center that drives every decision, every action, every future you create. If your mind is cluttered, weak, and distracted, then no matter how strong your body is, you will sabotage yourself. Mental reprogramming is about taking control of your thoughts, your focus, and your inner dialogue, and turning them into weapons instead of weaknesses. Most men don't even realize how poisoned their minds are. They fill their heads with trash from social media, with gossip, with endless noise, and then wonder why they can't focus, why they feel depressed, why they lack ambition. A man's mind is either his greatest ally or his deadliest enemy. You cannot build an empire with a broken operating system. The truth is, your thoughts are not neutral. Every thought you entertain is programming you toward strength or toward weakness. When you constantly tell yourself you can't, when you replay failures, when you let doubt dominate your mind, you are building a mental prison. On the other hand, When you train your mind with discipline, with knowledge, with focus, you are building mental armor that makes you unstoppable. That's why habits like reading, journaling, and intentional solitude are not just hobbies. They are acts of war. They are how you upgrade your software while everyone else is running on a corrupted system. When you open a book instead of scrolling endlessly, you're feeding your mind with new tools and perspectives. When you journal, you're sharpening your clarity, cutting through mental fog, and aligning your thoughts with your goals. When you spend time in silence, away from distraction, you're reclaiming your ability to think deeply, which is something most men have lost. Mental reprogramming is not about ignoring reality, it's about controlling how you interpret it. Weak men let setbacks destroy them. They fail once, and they tattoo failure into their identity. Strong men fail 1,000 times, but each failure becomes a lesson, a new data point, a stepping stone. That shift in thinking doesn't happen by accident. It happens because they've trained their minds to see everything through the lens of growth, not defeat. You cannot control what the world throws at you, but you can control the meaning you attach to it. And the meaning you attach is dictated by how disciplined your mind is. Ask yourself, what are you allowing into your head daily? Because the mind works like a sponge. If all you feed it is negativity, envy, fear, and weakness, that's what it will produce. But if you feed it strength, strategy, and vision, that's what it will produce too. This is why environment matters. The people you surround yourself with, the information you consume, the habits you practice. All of these are reprogramming your brain every second. If you're not intentional about it, you'll end up carrying someone else's program, usually one designed to keep you weak, distracted, and easy to control. And here's the part men don't like to hear: mental reprogramming is painful. It requires you to confront your lies, your excuses, your toxic patterns. It forces you to stop numbing yourself with distractions and actually face the reality of who you are. Sitting alone with your thoughts, writing them out, analyzing your own weaknesses, that's not comfortable, but it's the only way to rise above them. The weak avoid silence because they can't stand hearing their own mind. The strong embrace it because they know that's where they sharpen their edge. Every day you have a choice: to let your mind remain chaotic, cluttered, and weak, or to take control and rewire it into a weapon. And once you understand this, you'll see that the real war is not fought in the gym or in the office. It's fought in your head, in the quiet moments, in the decisions nobody sees. The man who controls his thoughts controls his emotions, his actions, and ultimately his destiny. And once your mind is reprogrammed to reject weakness and pursue strength relentlessly, there is nothing left in this world that can stop you. Every man thinks he can rise while keeping his weaknesses close. He tells himself it's just a small distraction, it's just a harmless habit, it's just a little compromise. But weakness doesn't stay small. Weakness grows, it multiplies, and it begins to infest every part of your life. That's why you can't manage weakness. You have to cut it out at the root. If you don't, it will strangle your potential before it even begins to grow. Success isn't built by stacking good habits on top of rotting foundations. You need to eliminate the things that drain your focus, that dull your edge, that keep you soft and average. Look at your life right now. Where are you bleeding energy? Is it the hours wasted on pointless scrolling? Is it the nights thrown away to parties and substances that leave you weaker the next day? Is it the toxic people who drag you back into mediocrity because they can't stand to see you rise? Weakness always disguises itself as comfort. It whispers, "You deserve this break, this pleasure, this indulgence." But the truth is, comfort is the most dangerous addiction. It kills more dreams than failure ever will. And unless you develop the strength to cut those comforts off, you'll never taste real power. Weak men tell themselves they'll quit their bad habits later. Later never comes. They say they'll distance themselves from toxic friends when the time is right. The time is never right. They convince themselves they can balance both strength and weakness in the same life. That's a lie. You cannot become extraordinary while holding on to the ordinary. You cannot become disciplined while indulging in the very habits that keep you weak. This is why the strongest men live with ruthless standards. If it doesn't serve their mission, it's gone. If it doesn't make them sharper, they cut it out. They don't negotiate with weakness because they know weakness is patient. It waits for you to slip and then it takes control. Cutting weakness at the root means making brutal decisions. It means looking at the friends who waste your time and walking away, no matter how long you've known them. It means looking at the addictions that numb your mind and cutting them off completely, not reducing them, not controlling them, eliminating them. It means refusing to let your vices run your life, even when every part of you craves them. Discipline is not built in a world full of escape routes. Discipline is built when you burn the bridge back to weakness and leave yourself no option but to move forward. And here's the truth most men don't want to admit. Weakness feels good in the moment. That's why it's so hard to cut out. Scrolling, eating, drinking, gossiping, wasting time. It all feels good right now, but it robs you of tomorrow. Strength often feels uncomfortable in the moment, but it builds a future worth living. Cutting weakness means choosing discomfort today so you can live in power tomorrow. It means denying your impulses now so you can command your destiny later. Every decision is a seed. Weak decisions plant the seeds of regret. Strong decisions plant the seeds of respect. The man you become depends on which seeds you're planting daily. Think of weakness like a parasite. It doesn't kill you instantly. It drains you slowly. You wake up 1 year later and wonder why you're still in the same place, why you haven't progressed, why you feel empty. But if you trace it back, you'll find weakness has been eating away at your time, your energy, your ambition all along. That's why you can't be casual about it. You need to be merciless. You need to declare war on every behavior, every distraction, every influence that drags you down. Because life is already hard enough when you're strong. If you stay weak, you're guaranteeing your own destruction. And once you begin to cut weakness at the root, you'll notice something powerful. You start to rise naturally. Without those anchors, your energy increases, your focus sharpens, your time multiplies. You suddenly see how much of your life was being stolen by things that gave you nothing in return. And this realization hardens you. It makes you less tolerant of mediocrity, less willing to waste a second, less open to compromise. You begin to guard your mind, your body, your environment with the same seriousness a king guards his throne, because you understand that one small crack in the walls can let the enemy in. Weakness is always looking for that crack, and the only way to win is to remove it before it grows. Momentum is the invisible force that separates men who achieve greatness from men who never escape mediocrity. One strong decision might spark change, but it's momentum that carries you forward when your willpower fades. Momentum is built through repetition, through stacking small wins until they snowball into something massive, something undeniable. The tragedy is that most men never understand this. They start something, they do it for a week, maybe a month, then they stop. They break the chain, and once the chain is broken, the momentum dies. And without momentum, you're starting from zero again, over and over, living in a cycle of failure and restart. That's why men spend years saying, "I'm going to change," but never actually do. They never stay in motion long enough to transform. Momentum is powerful because it rewires your identity. The more consistent you are, the more your brain begins to accept that this is who you are now. If you go to the gym for 1 week, you're just a guy working out. If you go to the gym for 1 year, you're a man who trains. If you put in work for a day, it's just effort. If you put in work every day for months, it's discipline carved into your soul. And once you cross that line, once your actions align with your identity, success becomes automatic. That's what unstoppable momentum feels like. You no longer push yourself to move, because movement is your natural state. The key is consistency, even in the smallest actions. Momentum doesn't ask for massive leaps. It asks for relentless forward motion. Wake up early today, then wake up early tomorrow, and then again the next day until it becomes impossible not to. Read 10 pages today, then another 10 tomorrow, until reading becomes as normal to you as eating. Train today, train tomorrow, train the next day, until it feels unnatural to skip. Momentum is not built in a single heroic act. It's built in the refusal to break the chain of progress. Every small win is fuel. Every completed day adds weight to your discipline until the weight is so heavy that even if you wanted to quit, you'd feel the shame of betraying the man you've become. The dangerous thing about losing momentum is that weakness sneaks in quietly. You tell yourself missing one day won't matter. You tell yourself you'll get back on track tomorrow. But weakness is smart. It knows once you stop, it's easier to stop again. And soon you're back to where you started, wondering why your life never changes. That's why you need to protect your momentum like your life depends on it, because it does. One broken promise can snowball into a week of failure, but one kept promise can snowball into a year of progress. That's how delicate and powerful momentum is. The beautiful part is that once you build it, life starts working in your favor. Opportunities appear because you've positioned yourself to recognize them. People start respecting you because they see your consistency. Your energy grows because your habits are feeding your body and mind instead of draining them. Progress accelerates because every day builds on the last. Success stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling like gravity pulling you forward. That's why men who build momentum look unstoppable, because they are. They've created a force bigger than motivation, bigger than discipline, bigger than temporary setbacks. They've built a lifestyle that carries them forward even when life throws chaos at them. Ask yourself this: are you in motion, or are you stuck restarting the same promises every month? Because the man in motion will always beat the man who keeps pausing, no matter how hard he works in bursts. Momentum multiplies effort. It turns ordinary actions into extraordinary results. And once you've felt it, once you've experienced the surge of unstoppable forward movement, you'll realize why men who win guard it with their lives. Because momentum is not just progress. Momentum is freedom. Momentum is power. Momentum is the engine that transforms tiny habits into a destiny that cannot be denied. Everything we've talked about leads to one undeniable truth: your life is nothing more than the sum of your habits. 10 tiny habits may seem insignificant on their own, but together, repeated daily, they will completely transform you into someone unrecognizable a year from now. The man who takes control of his mind, his body, his discipline, and his momentum becomes a force of nature. He no longer needs motivation because his very identity is built on strength, clarity, and relentless forward motion. Weakness is cut out, distractions are eliminated, and excuses are destroyed. Most men will never do this. They will keep chasing quick fixes, waiting for inspiration, waiting for the right time. But those who master the small things, those who are ruthless about the details, those who live by discipline instead of emotion, they are the ones who rise. They are the ones who command respect, who achieve freedom, who write their own destiny. The question now is simple. Are you going to keep living on autopilot, chained by weakness, waiting for change that never comes? Or will you take these habits and start stacking victories today? Because the man who starts now, no matter how small, will already be ahead of everyone else tomorrow. Transformation is not an event, it's a choice repeated daily until it becomes unstoppable.